Hello, everyone. Once again, this is Marty Schultz in the Department of Special Education, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about Snap and Read and go a little bit more into detail with some of the tools that I mentioned in the last video. So let's get started. Once again, we're going to start by, I'll just point out that the Snap and Read tool is accessed through this little icon in the top right of your Chrome bar. You can see I have it on already. It's really easy to turn off and on. When it's off, it looks dark black. Turn it on, it's bright blue. And in the last video, we talked about 3 of these tools. We talked about the Speak All tool, which will read text aloud to you, the OCR tool, which can detect text visually, text that's not selectable, like the text in this picture is not, which I'm going to demonstrate in a little bit, and the text leveling tool, which shows you the definitions for difficult words. There's a 4th tool down here, which is an outlining tool, and I'm going to talk about that in another video. I didn't want to overload you in the last video, and we've got enough to talk about in this video, so I'll make a 3rd video just for that tool. But let's go ahead with our stuff for today. So today I wanted to teach you some advanced tool tips, specifically how you can combine this OCR tool with the text leveling tool. And then I'm going to show you how to adjust some options and some settings that can make Snap and Read work just right for you. So to start with, here's a little quick review. This OCR tool, I click on the button, I get this kind of crosshairs, and I can just click and drag a box over text that I want read to me. So I'm going to do that for this diagram of the Earth's energy budget, which is talking all about the greenhouse effect. And let's listen to it read for just a minute.
The Earth's energy budget describes the various kinds and amounts of energy that enter and leave the Earth system.
All right, so I mentioned in the last video that the OCR tool is not perfect, and you heard it once again just then. Instead of the Earth's energy budget, it read the Earth-IS energy budget because it saw that apostrophe and thought it was an I. So take it with a grain of salt. The OCR tool is not perfect, and you're still going to have to be an active reader when you're using Snap and Read. Now, I like this text because there's a lot of difficult words in here, and it's not selectable text like the other tools. But since I used the OCR tool, you know that this little box that I clicked on, it still persists here. And so now I can just come over and I hit the text leveling tool, and I come back and I click in my box, and here's what it gives me. You can see, look, it still read this funny. It says the Earth-S energy budget. But you can see that it leveled some of these other words. So originally it said the various kinds and amounts of energy. It changed various to different kinds for me, just in case I hadn't come across that word various before. It changed this word components. So it includes both radiative components, light and heat. It changed that to it includes both radiative parts or pieces, which are light and heat. So you can see you can use that text leveling tool in combination with the OCR tool. I just wanted everybody to know you could do that. Now, you might have noticed something different happen today when I had Snap and Read start to read the text aloud, which is that the voice was different. In the last video, it was sort of a British-sounding male voice. Now it's just an American-sounding female voice. Here's how you can adjust that voice setting and a few other things to make Snap and Read work for you. If you come up to the icon in the toolbar for Snap and Read and you right-click, which on your Chromebooks, if you take 2 fingers and you tap lightly on your trackpad at the same time, you'll get this same right-click menu. You can also hold down Control and then click on it to get that right-click menu. But either way, right-click on this and select Options. It's going to open a new tab. Now notice my tab from before is still right here. So don't freak out when it takes over. You can still get back to where you were. You come right over here and you can see you've got a bunch of options you can change in Snap and Read. You can change the text color and word highlight. That's in case you're someone who has some difficulty with vision or you need some special contrast. You can adjust those settings so that it looks better for you and is easier to read. And right here is where you can adjust which voice is going to read. There's also a bunch of accents. These don't really seem to translate. They just give it a different accent. So I don't really know why you would want to use that because it makes it harder to read. So I'd recommend you just stick with the English sounding voices. Last time I was using this English UK, meaning United Kingdom English Mail. Right now it's set to the Google US English. I'd recommend sticking with the Google ones. I've noticed that this Microsoft Anna, she doesn't read very fluently and sounds even more robotic than the other ones. So anyway, I'm going to leave this on Google US English, which is that female voice. And then we've got some more settings. This first one is volume. on this slider. Move it to the right to make it louder, left to make it quieter. That's pretty straightforward. Then you have these other two settings. There's a snail and a hummingbird. And if you're into music, this is a flat symbol and this is a sharp symbol. The snail and hummingbird, that adjusts how quickly the computer voice will read to you. So watch what happens when I turn it towards the snail.
Welcome to the Snap and Read extension. You can change the pitch, rate, and volume of... Welcome to the Snap
Okay,
and Read
enough
extension.
of that.
You can change the pitch, rate, and volume of speech using the sliders below.
You can tell that when you move it to the left, she sounds pretty sleepy, pretty groggy, and moves a lot slower. Similar with this. I'll show you what happens when we move the pitch down.
Welcome to the Snap and Read extension. You can change the pitch, rate, and volume of speech using the sliders below. Welcome to the
So as you can see, adjusting that down gives her a much deeper voice, and if you adjust it up the other way, it'll give her a much higher pitched voice. So you can play around with these a little bit. Don't waste a lot of time, though, because you've got studying to do. But make sure that it is reading fast enough and reading at a pitch that sounds really easy for you to listen to. The most important thing is that when the text, the Speak All tool is reading to you, that you can understand what it's saying and that you can keep up. I'd recommend making it just as fast as you can still keep up with, because that'll keep you on a nice pace and it won't go too slow, but you'll still be able to understand. Now, this next one is probably the most important that I want to talk to you about. It says text complexity right here, and there's a slider that goes from left to right, 1 dot on the left, 3 dots on the right. I would recommend to start with that everybody, it usually starts somewhere in the middle or down here, move it all the way to the left. And what that's going to do is it's going to translate more words, or translate's the wrong word. It's going to show you the definitions for more words when you hit that text leveling tool. If I set it really high, it's not, what I'm telling it is that I am a good reader and I can handle much more complex text. And if you move it all the way to the top, it's hardly going to provide you with definitions for anything. So I'd start out by moving it to the left and then kind of bump it up if you feel like it is showing the definitions for too many words or for words that are easy and that you already understood. So you can do that. So there is one other thing that I wanted to show you today. And actually, real quick, before we leave this, you should know if you adjust any of these settings, they won't take effect until you hit refresh on the page. So for example, if I wanted to bump up the text complexity here, I'm going to have to come back here and hit refresh on this page, and then it's going to take effect. So let's see. I'll try and show you the difference here real quick. And I come over to the OCR tool. Yeah, you can see it told me the definitions of a lot fewer words than before. And actually, yeah, it really only showed me the meaning of evaporation, which has changed from a liquid to a gas. So if you set that slider too far to the right, it's not going to help you as much. It won't show you the meanings of as many words, and that might get frustrating for you. So like I said, make sure that you get this set all the way down to the left. And I think that'll work out the best for you. So I want to show you one last thing. Now is the one last thing. If you haven't noticed, I kind of love science. So I showed you something yesterday about praying mantises, and this one's about climate change. And I also love space and science. So I wanted to come over here. Here's a great website from NASA that tells you all about what's going on in the International Space Station. And so I was playing around with this OCR tool, and I was wondering if it could read text that was sideways. And I found this picture of an astronaut poking his head into a new module on the space station that they're trying out. But check this out when I try the OCR tool.
Tilde Q09.
Huh? So yet again, more evidence. That OCR tool is not going to replace you or another human being. I just didn't want anybody to get frustrated if you're using the OCR tool and it makes a bunch of mistakes like that. It also sometimes might read behind the picture, so check this out.
AAAW2E.
I have no idea why it just read me that series of letters and numbers, but my only guess is that there's some HTML code, which is the computer language that people use to make websites. And for some reason, it's picking up on that code because there's nothing for it to see in this picture. So it's kind of looking into the background of the web page and picking it out. So again, That OCR tool is not perfect. It has flaws. I just didn't want anybody to get frustrated if that happens to them or get confused. And also, I like this image because I have a challenge for all of you. A challenge that if you can solve, I will reward you with a prize. And here's how it works. So I told you this is an astronaut on the International Space Station. And I see this word as port, P-O-R-T. Which has a couple different meanings in the English language, but I'll let you figure out which one. I also noticed there are some abbreviations in these big signs. There is OVHD, STBD, and DEC, and then his hand is covering something. My challenge to you is to figure out what the word port and each one of these abbreviations means. And if you can figure that out and you send me your answer in an email, I'm going to take all the correct answers and I'll put them in a hat and I'm going to have a drawing. Let's say you need to get it to me by, we'll say October 15th. If you can get that to me by then and you're correct, I'll put your answers into a hat. I'll draw one name and that person will win a prize and I will hand deliver it to your classroom and you can tell me how you solved it. I will give you a clue and that clue is sailing. And that is all I'm going to tell you. So, this has been the second video in our tutorial on Snap and Read. Have fun trying to figure out my challenge. I can't wait to see your emails. And have a great day at school today. Bye-bye.